Hello and welcome to Living Well Today. I'm Angela and I have a very dear friend joining me today, and I know you're going to love her. Her name is Marilyn Gilman from the Gilman Group. Welcome, Marilyn.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you so much for your kind words, and thanks for having me. Excited.
Wonderful. Yes. So let me tell you a little bit about Marilyn. She is a mom and a grandmom. We're going to talk about all those wonderful grandbabies that you have, and I know you're very involved in their lives. And she is a philanthropist. She gives back to she's on several boards. We'll talk about some of those pursuits and passions and how she selects what organizations she loves to be involved with, because she is limited on her time. So she has to have some discernment around where she invests that energy. She is a powerhouse realtor. And if I recall correctly, Marilyn, just recently, you were like the top, like million something, right? I don't want, I'll let you say, what is the exact term for it?
Well, they call it, we have different hierarchies of, it's really platinum circle. Platinum circle is a level of production that they call it. And it's a pat on the back for us from our broker, and, make us feel good about ourselves. But yeah, it's just the level of production is really what it's based on.
Okay. And so when we'll dive into the details of that and how you came to be in the place that you are in real estate, what you love about it, etc. But where I'd like to begin is at the beginning, which is way back when you were young. You've always had a passion for nutrition and living well and living healthy, but you've had your own interesting adventure and challenges with that. Let's talk a little bit about your life and kind of the path. Where were you born? Where were you brought up? And what do you love about where you live? All that good stuff.
Well, I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, but I moved away when I was very young, and the military actually brought me to Jacksonville, Naval NAS it's called. My dad was a air traffic controller in the military, and so we came here, I believe, in 1973. And it was really kind of always roots for me. My parents were divorced, so I lived mostly with my mother here in Jacksonville, but sometimes when I thought the grass was greener, I would go live with my dad. And in hindsight, I'm kind of glad I had the opportunity, because I got to live in different states and, see that. Otherwise, I would have just lived in Jacksonville. But these are my roots. But so, I grew up primarily in Jacksonville. I finished high school in California, and I love those years. They were, as I affectionately refer to them, as my formative years, because it was high school and it was a small little coastal town called Port Hueneme, and it was so fun. And you rode your bike, and life was simple, and we looked forward to the beach every day, bonfires at night. It was wonderful. And then I came back to Jacksonville after high school, and I was that. And I've been here pretty much ever since. I had a small, 5-year stint. I got married, but I'm kind of going fast forward a little bit. After that, I had 2 young daughters.
You were a young mom.
I was a very young mom. Yeah, was a very.
What was that like? What was that experience?
Hard. I was a child mom. I mean, I was a legal adult, but I certainly was not prepared emotionally. Education, all of the above, I was not prepared to be a mom, so I did the best I could. It all turned out okay, but I wouldn't recommend it. Emotionally, it was a lot. But I managed. And then I got married late in my mid-20s. I met the man I'm married to today. And we lived together in Ponte Vedra Beach for a few years. And then we decided we were going to build a house together after we were married in Kingsland, Georgia, where my husband has a real estate development company. And so we lived up there for about 5 years. And then, and we had 2 small children together. So now it's 4 we have. And eventually decided it was a very small town, 15, 20,000 people. And I think I just got restless. I really wanted to come back to Jacksonville, which,
By the way, I just want to say my hometown was like 1,500 people. So when you said 15,000, that's about the size of the town that I went to college in Ithaca.
so
So
I,
you very much
exactly.
are from Jacksonville, because Jacksonville's like the largest city in the US, right? By
Right,
square mile.
geographically, it certainly is. The population's only just over 1 million, I think, maybe 1.3 million now, but that was a small town
For you.
for me.
Yes.
And I didn't have a lot of friends up there. I didn't know anybody. My roots weren't there, even though I was in love and having babies and raising children. And so you're not paying attention to all the stuff around you because I was focused on what was right in front of me. And then, once our boys were going to go to school, we decided that we wanted to move back to Jacksonville, and we started shopping for places to be. And Avondale, which is where we live now, it's a kind of a bedroom community, more urban, suburban area just outside of Jacksonville. Literally, I ride my bike to downtown Jacksonville regularly. And it's a historic district. It's very walkable, pedestrian. And it's exactly 35 minutes straight up 95 for Charles to go to work. So where he still has his the real estate company. So it made sense for us. And I happened when I was 15, 16 years old, I lived in this area off Valencia, which is close by to where we live now. And so I knew this area pretty well. I knew people who lived here. It was always a real cool area of town. And we've been here ever since. We just hit October 5th, we closed 19 years ago on our house. And we've been here ever since. It's been
And this is, and Avondale is where you call home. And along that journey, how did you make your way from an 18-year-old young mom getting married, and then when did nutrition really start to play a big role in your world?
I'm going to be very honest about this, and it's not that glamorous. So I think, when I was younger, I went through a period of, I wanted to party my head off, and I was drinking. Along came with, drinking alcohol like a normal young person, partying, nothing out of control. It wasn't anything abusive, but, and along with that drinking came late night Taco Bell, fast food, etc. That's
Yeah.
the truth. That's what happens. They kind of, collide
Go
together.
hand in hand. Yeah.
Now, in high school, I was been an athlete. I was a cheerleader. I was a track star. I was all of those things. So I'd always been athletic my whole life. And between the ages of really 21 and I would say just before 24, I gained some weight. And it was something I'd never experienced before. And it took me a while to notice it because it kind of creeps up on you. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to do something about this. So I had a friend who had a treadmill outside on a covered patio, and I would put headphones on with the big, the big headphones that had a big, squishy wire to his radio. And I put on Lords of Acid, and I got on a treadmill, and I thought myself thin. And I just, every single day I got on that treadmill, and I would just, it was like, who couldn't dance all night long? It was like I was dancing to the music until sweat was dripping off my forearms. And then eventually, well, this is funny. I say this, everybody says 4 to 6 weeks and the magic's going to happen. And if you're consistent with your exercise, it's going to happen. Well, it didn't for me. I felt like it was God's sick joke. I didn't see any difference. Although people around me did, I didn't. And I kept going. And about 8 weeks, it literally just, everything fell off of me. And I'm not talking, it was just a puffiness of drinking, probably 10 or 15 pounds. And on my body, that's a lot. On anybody's body, that's a lot. And it all of a sudden just came off. It's like I was being tested by God to see, can you do this? Are you going to have the gumption to keep going on this? And it's really the way, honestly, it felt to me. And once I did that, I then joined a gym called Powerhouse Gym off Bay Meadows Road here in Jacksonville. And I met a gentleman and his wife that were Mr. and Mrs. Jack's Physique. And they kind of took me under their wing, and kind of by accident, because John, his name was John, he came up to me and corrected me on an exercise. And I was more than happy to have him tell me, basically the exercise I was doing, I was not doing it to get the best result. And so, and he just kind of took me under his wing, and I learned so much from him. And it really started then. So from 24 on, it became my passion. It became, I ate my own cooking, as I say. I did everything, I ate right. If you tend to go to the gym, this is my thoughts at least, if you tend to go to the gym and exercise and work really hard, you don't tend to go to Taco Bell. And, they tend to, again, align, the same way with drinking and eating fast food or eating not so healthy, they kind of can mesh together. The same way happened with exercise and fitness for me. I started learning about nutrition to get the best results for me. They went hand in hand. So that it just became a journey. And then next thing I know, it was just became part of the fabric of who I was.
As you're on this path of feeling your best self in your physical body, how tell me about your experience with your health and well-being, because you were thrown for a real loop when right after you had your first child with Charles. So your third child.
It was actually my fourth baby. And so
your fourth baby. Okay.
Fourth baby. So I think, spending so many years eating, exercising, all of those things, fast forward, I was 34 years old, having my fourth baby, and I was 7.5 months pregnant. And I was diagnosed with AML, which is acute myelogenous leukemia. And I didn't even know what it was, actually. I called my mom on the phone and I told her, and first I called my husband, and Charles is a pretty monotone guy, and he didn't give me much response, and therefore I didn't have much response. When I called my mom, she screamed in the phone, dropped the phone, and told me I could not tell her that over the phone. And at this point, I really don't know what it is. I thought it was something like you see on you remember as kids, the Jerry Lewis telethon, we'd watch as kids and he'd raise it. I kind of thought it was something like that. I didn't know what it was until promptly it was like, my doctor calls me and says, pack your bags. And I said, well, how long? And you need to go to the hospital. And he's like, I don't know. We don't know. And it went from, that being diagnosed with leukemia to, get your things in order over a couple of days. And I didn't leave the hospital for 5 weeks. I went through chemotherapy. They delivered the baby on March 10th. They started chemotherapy on the 13th. And I was put in remission on the 20th. In the interim, I had a stroke to my brain, spleen, and kidneys. I developed hemolytic anemia from having so much foreign blood put in my body when my own body was carrying a fetus, and you have factors. And then I had a single pulmonary hemorrhage, my lungs bled, and then I had a double, and I was dying in that hospital until my sister's platelets at the 11th hour, they tested her and she was an exact match to me. And
so Marilyn, so it was just this domino effect.
Yeah. It was staggering. And so back to the health and fitness and how that came full circle. I think, Angela, living the way I did and healthy and clean and stuff. I mean, not that I didn't have my sinning, because I certainly did. I'm human. I did. I wasn't perfect. But I often said that I don't think that my health and fitness journey prevented me from getting cancer, but it did help me survive it. And that was a really important thing, is that I was having a double pulmonary hemorrhage. The fact that I could breathe through that, where ordinarily you get so tired of breathing, where you're tachypnic and you're breathing so fast, you get too tired to do it. And I was able to push forward and stay alive. And I had the motivation, though, of having, a husband and 4, my daughters were teenagers, young teenagers, and a premature baby and a 3-year-old.
Did you have conversations with God, in the 5 weeks in that hospital? Do you remember asking yourself certain questions, asking God certain questions, wondering why at this point in my life, or what? Tell me, or were you just in, sometimes women can go into fix it mode, right? Like we get this determination, this we get steeled, we get fortified that we're going to make our way through this because that's what we do. And were you more of that mindset, or were you probably a mixed bag, right?
Angela, that's very interesting that you say that, because I never first of all thought I was going to die. I was resolute that I was not going to die. And I was steeled, as you said, because I just thought, I'm going to do this. I was a very compliant patient. My mother and my sister were at my side every moment. That I almost had no hands put on me in the hospital other than the nurses either cleaning my port that I had or administering chemotherapy in the middle of the night in spacesuits. I had diligent care, but I don't think I ever thought I was going to die, except when I had a situation happen where I had my last right threat to me. And I do remember laying in the hospital bed, looking up at the chaplain as he said, "Do you accept Jesus Christ as your savior?" And I said, "Yes, yes, I do." And that's the only very brief moment that I was scared and I thought I would die, because, you know, who has their last rites read to them in a hospital? Not many live to tell about it. And that happened to me. And then I lived. And I think by the grace of God, my sister at the very 11th hour was an exact match to me. Turns out I had 2 in my immediate family, including my premature son. So there's a reason, and I do attribute that to God. I mean, there's a reason I'm on this earth, because there's no other explanation. I was very, very sick, and the doctors shook their head, and sometimes they said, sometimes literally to my mother, sometimes we do all we can do and it's not enough. And it was blood cancer.
My goodness.
It was very, very, it was a terrible collision, but there's got to be a reason. And that I do believe that, in hindsight, of course, but I, as you said, was very resolute as I'm going to live. I had pictures of my children and my husband, and I'm going to live through this, and it's not going to be great all the time. I slept on ice blankets when you're kind of supposed to sleep under them to keep from having fevers, which are, you know, all of that. But I really think that, you know, with my health and fitness being so healthy, of course I'm pregnant, so I'm living very clean anyway, but having the cardiovascular health to sustain myself, being sick like that was probably very helpful to me. And I was pretty hardcore into it. So
coming out of that, did you learn anything about, I mean, it's hard to even comprehend, but what did you learn about yourself that maybe you didn't know going into it? Or maybe there were things that were reflected about your friends and family to you that you saw in a new light going through that experience together.
Well, I was super grateful to be alive. I think I had some PTSD, and I wish I could go back and kind of conjure up and live more presently in that moment at the time, because I really had PTSD from it, because I was so had blinders on and hyper focused to stay alive. I didn't grieve at all. And so when I came out of it, I remember talking to my sister on the phone, and I cried, and it was like a nervous breakdown. And I said, literally verbatim, "I survived. Can I cry now?" And it's exactly how I felt, because it was a little bit like, okay, all that's over now. I went to New York and went through 10 months of, it's called consolidation. So I had induction, which put me in remission here, Mayo Clinic, St. Luke's. And then I moved to New York and went to Memorial Sloan Kettering and lived in New York with my in-laws, with the 2 young children. I had some help, of course, and I lived and I walked back and forth to the hospital, but I was so focused on that. I didn't really ever think what's happening around me. I just didn't. I don't know.
Well, you know what, love, I mean, you did what you needed to do, which, as you said, you were so hyper focused on surviving, which is what
I was more scared of leaving my husband alone with 4 children than I was dying. You know, because dying is kind of not for anybody wants to die, and I don't make light of that, but dying is final and it's easy, for lack of a better word. That sounds weird to say that, but
no, it's a transition. Like, yeah, you transition and then,
you know, you die, and then.
But for those who are behind,
after
yes.
that, I was more petrified of that than anything else, of leaving what that would look like. I had 2 young daughters, 2 young children. One of them was a premature. He was 5 pounds and 9 ounces, which is actually a pretty big baby for 7.5 weeks early, but he needed a lot of help. You know, they kept him in NICU for 2 weeks with me so I could.
Did it shape your relationship with your son differently? I mean, I feel like it would have to have had in some way.
Yeah, he's my little, we toughed it out together. So, you know, he happened to be my baby, literally my last child being my baby, but you know, we definitely have a special, I think we both have a special place in each other's heart for that. Like, we survived that together, and
we did it together.
He doesn't, of course, he's not conscious of those kind of things. But
no. But on a soul level, absolutely aware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He knows that, you know, seeing pictures, and, you know, he was so tiny. He was this big. He was so little. And I'm so grateful for my sister. She took my baby. She had her own 3-month-old baby. She took my baby home with her because my husband was taking care of the teenagers and the 3-year-old. And it was, he's a hot mess thinking his wife's going to die. And I mean, literally, the doctors weren't that confident that I was going to live. She took my baby home. He needed a lot of help. Swallow, fed. You had to wake him up she could tell the story better than me, because some of it, when you're going through a traumatic, it's like PTSD, you don't remember a lot of it because it's a blur.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Well, it's a protection. Yeah, it's a protection. Your brain protects you in that way.
Yeah. And so I actually was in California with my sister a few months ago, and I was telling her a story about this. We were talking about, she goes, it didn't happen like that. And I kind of laughed about it, like, oh, it didn't happen that way, because my mind has decided on things happened a certain way. And I've asked her to kind of go through it a little bit. She was a nurse at the hospital. I believe she was a nurse at the hospital I was in, and now she's a nurse practitioner and brilliant. But she was there every day. My mom and my sister, I give, short of modern medicine and chemotherapy that put me in remission. Having leukemia is much like having AIDS. You have no defense system at all. And I got it's overwhelming infection that kills you. And I had 0 things that were very common, other than the side effects, of course, having a stroke and having a stroke. I had a PFO. Turns out that the chamber, it's called a PFO, or patent foraminovalle. It separates the chambers of your heart. You have 4 chambers. And when you're in utero, it's open. So it allows everything to wash, the blood to wash your heart and enrich everything as it's growing. And then when you're born, it closes up. It's a foramen. It closes up. Mine didn't close all the way. It has a little pinhole. And when I developed clots on my aortic valve, they showered down to my spleen and kidneys, and some went up through the PFO and up to my brain. What luck is that? Up to my brain. And it affected the left side of my body, which I'm very dominantly left-handed. So I had all the facial palsy and but
how did you rejuvenate that? That just through time and through patience and care and
my sister, again, we'll go back to her. She came to see me, to bring the baby to see me. And she looked at me in the hospital bed, and I was in a bed with the big vacuum rooms they have with the filters. And she double took at me. She said, smile. And I smiled, and I had to, I didn't see it because I didn't see it. And she marched right out of that room to the nurse's station and said, my sister's had a stroke. Next thing I know, now I've had hemorrhages, pulmonary hemorrhages. So I've got forced oxygen up my nose. Now they're going to stick me in an MRI tube. And I was mad at her because they were going to put me in a tube, and I was already claustrophobic. I couldn't breathe. And so, and I've had instances where the cannula fell out of my nose, and she was bathing me, and I freaked out and developed whatever. I mean, I was a hot mess, but so your question, I'm sorry. What was your question? How I?
Well, you said your sister came into the room and knew that you had a stroke.
Yeah. So she I think what saved me, Angela, frankly, was time, because time, I think, is the most one of the most relevant things to a stroke, is them getting, blood thinners in there. It affected a relatively silent part of the brain, as my doctor said. And so, I'm like, well, I don't use most of it anyway, is what I told the doctor, being funny, like, oh, don't worry about it. I don't use most of it anyway. But so I think, being that it did not infarct the brain for a long enough time to cause more brain damage than it did, that I was okay, and I was young, I was 34 years old. So I was, relatively young and healthy, and in time, the fact that my sister had that done probably within hours of having that stroke, I was on heparin, I was on Lovenox, I was on things that broke the clot out of my brain. So I didn't have any residual, almost none. I mean,
That's amazing. The body is an amazing mechanism, isn't it? I mean, I'm always fascinated if you and I are out to dinner or having a conversation on a Sunday afternoon, when something goes, it seems to go that way, where I'm always fascinated with the depth at which you understand how the human body works, reacts, integrates. It's pretty amazing. And that's I think is spawned from your curiosity. Talk a little bit about that, because we all kind of just put the food in, or we go about our day, or we pop the pill to help us, or we go through our different, you've been to Seventh Wonder. We had Folly on Step Into Your Power. You watched that episode with Folly. You've been to her spa with me. So we all use different tools. One of your tools has been your curiosity. Talk about that and what fuels you in that way.
Well, I ended up going through everything, part of my journey with my health and my fitness, I will say first. I decided I was going to go to school to be a nutritionist, a dietitian. So I went down that road, and I think it was a natural. My sister's a nurse. Both of my grandparents on both sides were nurses. I think there's just that medical intuitiveness, understanding the human body that I find fascinating, and it comes very naturally to me. I can't sing, I can't paint, I can't scribble well, but something inherently about human body I find fascinating. And I just said this to some friends last night. We were talking about something totally different, but I said, the interesting thing, this was just last night. The body's amazing that there's a backup plan for a backup plan. And it's by design. It has to be. You cut yourself, and what happens from there that you can't see cellularly is mind-blowing. And then if you study it, it really is just amazing. All these little macrophages come in, and the things that knit together. I find it fascinating. And so if you find something interesting, you tend to want to study it. So the more I've gotten into it, in my journey in between going to school in nutrition, learning about specifically supplements, which I find very interesting and compelling, and the science for it. Not all of it, a lot of it.
Marilyn comes to my house and says, okay, I brought you berberine. I brought you hibiscus. Oh, now I have.
Yeah. I don't know why it comes so naturally to me. I read it a lot because, anything that you read that you're interested in, I tend to remember it like a lock and key. It fits in there, it stays there. If I read something I'm not interested, I don't remember it the next day. But for some reason, this particular stuff really does to me. I find it. Yesterday, we had a dog trainer over, and she was telling me about taking nootropics, and that is a specific part of supplements. I really find things that stimulate the brain, and all the cordyceps or mushrooms that people take, and I find it really fascinating. And berberine for insulin resistance,
regulating your insulin and your
has a lot to do with inflammation. So there's a lot of downline things to supplements that protect other things.
Well, let's talk about now you open a drawer and you've got a bevy. Let's just say you've got a pharmacy in your house.
Yeah.
Kitchen drawer. But what is just because many are not going to necessarily take it to the degree that you take it. But if you were to anyone listening or who'll watch this later on down the road, there was a core regimen of, let's say, 3 to 4 things that you say, absolute bar none, regardless of who you are and what age you are, or whatever, these things will do wonders for you.
Well, I take NAD plus, which is
what is it?
NAD plus, and it's an acronym for N-acetyl, blah 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 blah. It's a nicotinamide riboside, but that's the down acetyl. So NAD plus, I would be one. I take a micronized resveratrol.
What does the NAD plus do? What's the impact?
Well, it helps. It's an anti-aging molecule on a cellular level. And again, I had this conversation yesterday with our dog training lady. It protects you at a cellular level. It stimulates sirtuins, which are the anti-aging cellular part of your body, to just prevent the aging or premature aging of the cell. And so a lot of the things I take are to help you on a cellular level where you're not going to see. And she asked me this yesterday, what do you think you've seen the most from? And so, people think, oh, I take collagen and I can see my skin and my hair and my nails. Well, collagen is a really big molecule. And so it's hard to get collagen into the body where you're going to see the result. I don't really tend to do things like that. I tend to take things like curcumin. Berberine is really good for insulin control and keeping you steady, wins the race. Things that spike cause inflammation. That's, to me, inflammation is the hallmark of aging. So I take NAD, resveratrol, berberine, curcumin, micronized curcumin, and how you take those things, where they come from, how they're manufactured, a medicinal value, if they're biologically available to you. Some people take curcumin and it doesn't have, the fats with it, or the black pepper, piperine. It has to be in conjunction with those. So that's a really important thing.
What are
And
there, where are the core places, the suppliers that are there one or two suppliers you typically get the bulk of your supplements from, Marilyn? I can put them in a link in the chat. So
well, Rev Genetics is a company that I've discovered that I like a lot. And then
Rev, like literally REV.
Rev is just very phonetic, just like it sounds, Rev Genetics. And I don't represent them in any way. I like their products. But LEF, Life Extension Foundation, I've been a member of for about 26 years. And I love the company. I think it's evidence-based. It's pharmaceutical grade. It's a little bit expensive.
A nice publication too, don't they, Marilyn?
Very good publication.
Yeah.
It's cutting edge. They'll come out with science, and not just supplements. They don't always have a supplement that coincides with their science, but they're an anti-aging research foundation. They're based out of Fort Lauderdale, and they often make supplements that are out probably a year or two or more before mainstream media gets a hold of it. But I think that
I know a client of mine in New York has been a devotee of life extensions for 20 years or more.
It's incredible. Their stuff is so cutting edge. And I would take a PQQ, which is pyrroloquinone, quinine. It's a red pigment basically. And I didn't see it in a health food store for probably 3 years. And we have one here locally, Now,
just as an example, what would the implication or impact of that be for you?
Those red pigments, basically anything, it's like eating your blueberries, the active ingredient in that protects you on a cellular level as an antioxidant. Antioxidants being the shield that takes, as you breathe oxygen, you oxidate your blood, and we need it. But it's the post-doc, I guess you call it, when you breathe in, you breathe out. When you oxidize your blood, you have a redox system you're oxidizing your blood. We need to, but at the same time, it comes with, and so these antioxidants help shield against the things that they say can harm your cells. We need some of it to do on our own. Otherwise, it's like taking melatonin outside of allowing your body to naturally make its own melatonin. If you take things outside of what your body will normally make, you will downregulate your normal melatonin. So I think there's something, I don't overdo the antioxidants too much. I don't take vitamin C. I don't do things like that, but I like the pigments. Like spirulina is something I take because of these green algae pigments. They're naturally high in, so, I could go on and on. I've had it feels like a lifetime of, I'm my own guinea pig. I owned a clinic at the beach for a few years called Health Management Resources. And I bought it as a weight loss clinic. And then I changed it to health management because I felt like weight loss was a symptom of health management. And I got a lot of reps brought me products. And at the time, this was very new. And it was, my son was young. He, oh my goodness, my computer's telling me it's going to die. They would bring me bovine collagen and things like that my husband and you'd have to keep it in the refrigerator. It was, the powder thing didn't exist. And it was really vital because it was like, what are you taking? And I was a bit of an experiment for myself, but I wasn't afraid of it. I thought it was normal to do this stuff. And, it was, I guess, researched somewhat, but it was new. That stuff was new on the market, bovine collagen. But now it's like all the rage.
So how did you make your way into real estate? I had this conversation with you last night, and I believe anyone who is introducing a family or a single woman, you think about the turning points that many people, not all, some are doing it for investments, et cetera, and they're not emotionally attached to it. But by and large, buying a home is an very emotional and can be transformational event. And you play a role in that, in helping align just the right abode, just the right protector for the dreamer, as I say, right? So talk a little bit about that path into real estate, what you love so much about it, and you're working with your daughter in it.
Yeah. Well, my husband, as I mentioned earlier, has a real estate development company. And sometimes on the weekends when we lived up there, I would go into the office and he was the builder and the developer. And so it was an easy transition for me to be able to, I worked all my life and then I got married and had the privilege of staying home to raise my children. But then you lose some of your autonomy, you lose some independence. And so on the weekends, I would go up and do that. And I found that I really loved it. I was helping people, do something that find a home with their family. And here we built a new home with my family. And so I really loved that. And then, when we moved to Florida, I didn't work again. It was raising the young boys and lots of soccer and baseball and all the things, grocery shopping, doing all the things,
And it's wonderful that you had that. I don't think you probably
Yeah.
reduced that, right? Beautiful
Absolutely.
that you had that.
I don't regret it. But the moment my son was able to drive and he didn't need me anymore, I always kind of festered about real estate and I decided to get my license. And so I did. And I just went, I think
you've been on a rocket ride. Now you've worked really diligently for it, but you've been very successful, relatively speaking, in a fairly short window of time, right?
4 years I've been in, and I went very quickly. But I think anything that you really love, you tend to be good at because you want to do it. I get up every day and I'm motivated by, I'm kind of motivated by the business hustle. I think I have a good business mind, good business acumen. I understand it. I like it. I like seeing the end result where, sometimes not everyone is happy or jumping for joy, but the buyer's happy, the seller's happy, people find a home. These people maybe they make a little bit of money. The culmination of everything together is really wonderful. And then this happened to my daughter. She worked in corporate America and she had a baby, and probably the first year of the baby's life, she was struggling she worked in corporate America in a high pressure, product driven job that it was a lot of pressure. And I said, just quit your job. And she too really was interested in real estate. It's kind of in our blood. It was like in our family. And I said, just quit your job, come work with me, I'll help you. And she did. And it just has been an amazing ride ever since then. So yeah.
And I have a few slides to share too. So go ahead and keep on talking. I'm just going to share my screen so that folks can see what I've got downloaded, if that's all right. So go ahead and keep talking.
I'm gonna
so she is I'm trying to find, where's my downloads? Where are my downloads, I should say. Here we go. Okay. I want to share. Go ahead. I'm going to find it. I don't know why I can't find it because I had it all teed up earlier, but
I also got a little bit dark. My computer was.
It's okay. And you're actually considering a new move, right? Writing a new chapter for yourself in real estate, which is amazing.
I just recently cracked the book to get my broker's license, which is exciting. And I think I wanted to do that because really I want the knowledge base. I have been very fortunate to have a very dynamic career in real estate where I do commercial work, vacant land, residential. And every transaction is different. Every one of them is different. And really, I think because you're dealing with unknowns and you're dealing with people. And so there's personalities in there, and a threshold of needs in there. And typically, I like commercial because it's not emotional at all, but I also love residential because it is emotional. So I think I get a very diverse group and I really love it. But I need, because I'm doing so much different types of real estate, I need more and more knowledge necessary, and thank goodness I have a broker that's amazing to bounce things off. But I kind of want to know it too. It doesn't necessarily mean that I will get open my own brokerage. But when I named my team, when my daughter teamed with me, we transitioned to the Gilman Group. And I was pretty strategic about that because if I just called myself Marilyn Gilman team, it didn't translate very well. And branding was super important to me. I knew that that was an important part of, the business I'm in is a relationship business. And so, it's like a commercial when you're like, dun, 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 dun. the branding is important. If I make a sing song, what I'm talking about because of branding. And so it was important to me to align that laterally where I could continue on to the Gilman Group and not, go from Marilyn Gilman to the Gilman Group and then make who, so I'm thinking about doing that now. I cracked the book for it. I don't think it's that hard. It's not that hard I think it's a lot of information. I think if you want to do it and I'll do it and it'll be fine.
And there she is. There's Aubrey.
My daughter. And one of the slide you see on the left, the woman there, Danielle, she's a very good, not old friend, an old friend, but we've been friends for a long time. And she actually was my first client.
So no kidding.
Yeah, that's great. She was my first client that she gave me the opportunity with my very first listing. And actually my first 5 listings. In fact, she is a little bit of a real estate mogul herself and had a lot of properties that she bought. She always said, buy them cheap and sell them high. And the market presented itself for just that. And she let me have the opportunity to sell it for her. And we did. And I think that momentum.
But there you go. Monthly $1 Million Club. That's what I was trying to think of.
Monthly
not so eloquently saying, but
yeah. And then, after 2019, COVID happened. And so I'll take some credit for the hustle because I certainly did. But every dog had a bone, as I say, because everyone was moving to Florida. Interest rates were nothing practically. It was free money and it was busy, busy, busy. So my first year, I set the pace for myself to have momentum. It's like watching a football game. When the team has the mo, they tend to win. Not always, but a lot of times, you have that mojo.
Yes.
Oh, and there's my husband on the left. There's that.
Yes, I want to talk us through some of these, by the way.
Yeah.
They're all, even though it's only Aubrey in your business, they're very, you're instrumental in each of their lives as you do work. And certainly you advise Charles. I know I've heard often, because of that business acumen and the mind that you have for real estate. Talk a little bit about that dynamic and who is all on the screen here with us.
So on the left-hand side, that's Charles, my husband, and myself. We're at a Project Atrium, which is it's a project at the museum downtown. I believe at this point, he may be chairman of the board of the museum, but we are certainly patrons of the museum. And I believe he's either on the board or chairman. He went from on the board for 10 years and then became chairman of the board at some point. And this might be timelines, I'm just not sure. A time frame there, but we're in Project Atrium, which is a centerpiece of the museum with usually a new project that comes out, a new exhibition that comes out. And it's very exciting and central to the museum. So we're there taking a picture. The little circle up top is my first granddaughter, Georgia. And here she's her first, no, it's not her first Christmas. It's her second Christmas, but she's a year plus old here. And then there's my daughter, Aubrey, the circle next to it, getting married. And then down below are, we're skiing, probably Telluride, because my husband's a creature of habit and really loves to ski Telluride year after year after year. And he's in the red jacket, I'm in the fuchsia. And then my son, Evan, my little special snow bunny, is there on the left-hand side. And then the far right there's Charles, myself, my son, Isaac on the left, Aubrey in the middle, and then Evan on the right. And they're, quite a bit. I think Isaac was probably 16 in the picture. Evan's probably 13. He's now 20. He'll be 21 in March. So these pictures a little bit older, but Aubrey was, in college probably, she's past college at this point, in her mid 20s.
You also have a daughter, Kayla, who lives in Texas, who's just a tough, pioneering woman herself. Yes,
she is. She's she's in the Air Force. I think she's a staff sergeant in the Air Force, and she's a force. Beautiful. She lives there, has a horse she loves very much, and that's her outlet. She rides horses and loves it. And I've got 2 grandsons. Those were my 2 first grandchildren.
How many grandchildren?
4.
4 grandchildren.
4. Oliver was my first, and then James, and then Georgia, and then Violet. Violet's just turned a year old in September. So, and boy, it's a different relationship. It's wonderful. It's incredible.
Yeah, but isn't it great? You get to go, and you, even if you were, I know earlier this week, you were over there super, super early in the morning because your son-in-law had to have something done, and they needed your help. You're always like right there
Yeah.
to be there and to help out. And talk a little bit about that balance of being able to, you're talking about migrating in lots of different roles here over the course of any one given week, as a matter of fact, from mom to grandmother to wife to sister and daughter, and then what you do in your real estate, and then what you do in your philanthropy work. How do you manage to work all of it? And what's kind of if you said, okay, the secret to living well today is for you?
Balance. It's balance. I mean, I think, I'm blessed with a job that I have the flexibility to do as much or as little as I want. Now, the outcomes are also based on that. So if I want to just sit around every day, then I can do that. I like the hustle. I'm stimulated. I'm inspired by the hustle. I like it. So for me, it works. Everybody is in a different place in their life. But for me, as far as philanthropy, we're involved with, I sit on the foundation board of the Museum of Contemporary Art downtown Jacksonville. My husband's family were collectors, avid collectors in their life, which I could expand on that, but that's kind of his story. But I, by proxy, being married to him, a part of that. And he was on the board for 10 years, and then they time out. You can't do, longer than 10 years. And so I was a natural succession to that, to get put on the board. And so now I do that. And I think it's an important part of our community is to have a museum that people find happiness. It's an outlet. It brings people together, because no matter what the art is, it's everyone's opinion of it varies and different. And I think it's part of our downtown that we're experiencing a revitalization of our downtown that is really exciting going on in this town. Jacksonville used to be the Hollywood of the South, if you didn't know some trivia about Jacksonville. And we had the big fire, I think it was 1901, huge fire that just killed downtown Jacksonville. And then we ended up with a sprawl, which Avondale is why we have a historic district. The sprawl became all over Jacksonville, and downtown got left behind. And because of the sprawl being the biggest geographic city in the United States, the sprawl happened everywhere, where our downtown, which is your urban core, kind of got left behind. And so we're seeing a resurgence. So for me, the museum is a really important, it's central downtown. And I think so that's important for me. I'm on the a foundation board for the University of North Florida, which is a very good school here. And, I get to see things that are really exciting going on there, seeing, first generation students who wouldn't have, again, I'm on a philanthropy board. So I get to see children go to school that would never go to school. And it's merit-based. They work hard for it. I sit on a committee for the grants committee of UNF, where we give money to professors that are doing research. And a lot of it's just patentable work, things. It's really exciting stuff going on with the university. And so it's very gratifying to see that. Again,
You're also aren't you on the board of the School for the Arts? We've talked about that.
Yes. It's one of the top performing arts schools in the country, Douglas Anderson.
Yeah.
I was hoping you could make it to an event tonight. I know you have something else, unfortunately, but we have one college showcase where all the seniors will be there tonight. And the colleges come, recruiters come, and the kids will perform. There'll be a performance going on, but they get to meet and greet, and it's recruiters from Juilliard, some of the best performing schools. Some of them come from Broadway, and they get these children. They pull them right out of Douglas Anderson, or they line them up with these schools. And a very dear friend of mine, Jackie Cornelius, was the principal for 30 years and asked me to join that board. My husband's mother was a Tony Award-winning. She produced Sophisticated Ladies. So we have some alignment with performing arts, again, because of my family, that, I'm not necessarily an expert. I would say my husband would be more.
You love dance. You're a great dancer.
I'm a good dancer. I love to dance, but not professionally. But I'm my husband's more of a quiet, the more quiet, dark horse, probably more educated in that way.
Except when he's playing trumpet.
He's picked up the trumpet that he loves, and he's getting
pretty good at it. He's getting better. And you're picking up piano. You're
Well, I'm
picking up.
excited to take piano lessons because he needs someone to join the band. And and
I
I
just love
actually
it.
wanted to take piano lessons for years until, I did a couple of lessons and I decided that it was hard. And I, for some reason, had in my mind thinking that it would just come naturally to me. Like a lot of things that come very naturally to me, I picked up because I wanted to. And that was one that it requires you to work. And you get a little bit of carpal tunnel and, you have your muscles in your hands, you have to work. And so I kind of dropped it. So he keeps poking me and he bought me a really nice, it's called a Clavinova. It's a very nice piano. And I feel guilty because he bought this for me because I said, I want to take piano lessons. I'm going to learn. And he plays the drums. He plays guitar and now he's picked up the trumpet. And I think it's his favorite. He feels like it's the most inspiring for him. And so that's fun. And so I feel like I need to, he says, when our kids are all gone, which our last child is going to go off to Utah for a year or so. And then he says, well, if I go join the band, are you going to come with me?
I go join the band.
You got to join the band. So I feel like he's going to leave me behind. I need to be his groupie. I need to be in the band. I better get in the band. I got to get myself entrenched in a job.
I will pay. I'll pay the big ticket. Get
Yeah.
myself a box seat right up
I
front.
think it's something too that as I get older, I do realize, Angela, that hindsight's always 20/20. And so knowing that I know that is something I always said I wanted to do. And so I better do it because TikTok, as you get older.
And because you'll do well at it. And it's something that you and your husband can do together, which is really wonderful, right?
And
I mean, you have to nurture that.
Yeah, I have to work that, part, but I have to do the work. And it's something that I think if I, sign up and buy a ticket, as I say, it's like, if you want to go on a trip, you buy an airline ticket. That's how you know you're going to go. You buy an airline ticket. So if I go and I say, I'm going to buy piano lessons, I'm going to show up. And then I have to come home and practice and all that stuff. And I think it's like something that I don't want to get older and regret things that I said I want to do that I didn't do. And I had some examples in my life of watching some people do that it taught me not to want to do that, is say I'm going to do something that I'm not going to do. And so, one by one, real estate was one of them I wanted to do. I did it. I wanted to get a degree.
Oh, your daughter's on here. Your daughter's on here. She just commented in the chat. How lovely.
So, that was one of the things. So the piano is one of the things, and I've had the machine, and I can tell you, I haven't done it very much because I've been lazy and too busy. And that's really just an excuse, honestly, because you find the time to do the things that you want to do. Everybody
really love. All right. So we have a few minutes left and I've got my fun, quick fire questions here for you.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So these you have not heard, right, in advance. So I just want everybody to know who watches this eventually that these are. So, well, we already asked you what lights you up and your passion. But let's rephrase it. What lights you up? What really lights you up? Gets you excited?
Well, I think, getting out of work, and that sounds so cheesy to say real estate, it really does make me happy. I love the hustle. I think the business side of it's fun. I love working with my daughter. She's really good. It's good to see us growing together and building something that I feel like is fun. I love my grandchildren. They make me happy. I wish my other two grandsons lived here, which I'm trying to talk my daughter into somehow finessing that and moving here. But
you could go even to Ocala. There's wonderful horse country there too. At least she would be in the same state, right?
Yes, it's hard. We just went to Austin to visit her and bring the children and see the children. She was here maybe a month before that, because if you don't see the children, they don't know who you are. And the responsibility is mine, not theirs. They're little. And so they won't know me otherwise. And I didn't have much of a relationship with either set of my grandparents. And so it kind of taught me what I didn't want, again, was to not have, I thought it was an important relationship that I wanted to foster, because I didn't ever have it. And I felt like I missed out on that, not having a grandparents in my life, that when other kids did, if I saw it, they going to camp, who went to camp? I didn't get to raise my hand. So I sent my kids to camp, all of them, and they didn't always love it. But I think that they're probably in hindsight glad that they went, because,
absolutely.
So I learned a lot of what not to do in my life, and I'm not doing it right all the time. I certainly have made tons of mistakes that, I probably can say I regret, but you do the best you can do.
I always like to say those things are, there's a gift in everything, right? There's a gift in everything.
Let's keep going.
So who do you like to surround yourself with? Talk a little bit about your tribe, your the closest people what are the qualities or the things that, and why? Why do you select those people?
Well, I was with a couple of friends last night that are movers and shakers in town, and they're creatives, they're doers, they're successful in their field, which can translate to any field if you surround yourself. So we're all in different things, but you surround yourself with people like that. I like to be with my children, my grandchildren, but you, Angela, you're a creative, you're a doer, you're inspiring. And so, I try to be around people who are doing things. You do surround yourself with the people you want to be like, you'll end up like them if you want that.
You'll raise your game. You'll raise your own game. Yeah, there's a thing, and this is a repeating pattern that seems to come up, is that, if you want to be better, you don't go on a team of basketball players they're all worse than you, right? You want to up your game. You surround yourself with people who emulate and represent the things that you're learning, that you want to, and you invariably rise up to that. One of the things that I've shared with my daughter over and over again, because she'll say, I don't understand, Mom, like I'm in so far over my head, right? And I'll say, honey, keep your feet in the room. Just keep your feet in the room. 90% of the deal is showing up, is having the courage to simply show up and admit to yourself that you don't know, and that it's okay that you don't know.
Yeah.
Because simply by being there, well, first of all, you never know when it's going to go to, what I say, go to puree. Never going to know somewhere down the road, you're going to go, oh, that's what that was about. Oh, I get it now, right? Because you might not see it right there and then in the moment, but looking back at it, you go, oh, that was what that was all about. So yeah, is that one of your kind of true norths too, is like challenge yourself to open the blinders and experience something new?
100%. Someone just this morning said to me, I really wanted to get into commercial real estate. And I said, well, you just go all in and you fake it till you make it, and you have a broker. And if you need help, then you ask for help, but you're going to learn a lot. And that's just exactly what I did. And I think Aubrey could probably tell you the same thing. You just do it, and you'll stumble, and you don't want to mess up too much, but you're going to learn a lot. And that's the only way you're going to do it. The same way that it's going to hurt my hands to learn to play piano. You just have to do it. And that for me has been whatever it is I've decided to do. Real estate's right now on my radar is a career, and I love it so much that, I just do it. And when that person asked me today, I want to get into that, how do I do it? And I said, well, you just do it. That's what you have
just
to
begin,
do.
right? Just begin.
Yeah.
Put the first one foot in front of the other.
That's usually, they say the hardest part is starting something. And then
Yes.
once you're rolling, and that's exactly what happened to me. It just started rolling, and it got bigger and bigger. And, I still have a lot of ways to go, but now I'm, doing it. And
I think it's a mindset of, I have clients that are learned, past tense, and I have clients who are learning regardless of their age. And I think that that's it has to be, I hear that mantra in everything that you've shared today, is that curiosity, is that willingness and openness to learn something new. And, piano lessons at, in our 50s, whatever the case may be. I mean, and when I say learn ed, they, at one point they got a degree, and then they got another degree, and then they got another promotion, and then they got another, and then at some point they decided they knew it. They knew what they needed to know.
Well,
and that's tough, because you're on planet Earth, and we can go back to the body. The body is either moving and growing, or what? It's staying stuck and it's dying, right? It's, you have to, a body in motion stays in motion, kind of thing.
Well, a very good friend of mine who's a pharmacist said the smartest people in the world know that they don't know everything. And I don't know a lot. And it's much easier to not know everything than to feel like you know everything, because then you're just done. You're cooked. It's like over. I don't know a lot of things, but I'm curious about a lot of things. And that's the human condition. And so I'm in that. That's where I'm at. I think I fall as I like, I'm curious and about some things, and I have a lot of things I probably left to do. And, in my mid 50s, I kind of feel like I do look back and think, oh, golly, time flew by so fast. My daughter's about to turn 36, and I can't believe it. I'm like, can you please stop it? And there are moments that I think, God, I wish I could just have that moment again.
That, yeah, go back. I'm dealing with a little bit of that now. It comes in and out where I'm okay with that my daughter's grown and that she's, creating this life and it's exciting and all that. And then there are moments where, when, especially like when the seasons change, you come into fall and you think about apple picking, or in our part of the world where we grew up and where we lived, apple picking and going to the mountains and doing our little retreat every year and pressing leaves. You just think, or as you come into the holidays, there's different triggers, right, that kind of bring that. But, and you feel a little bit of that tinge of sadness or missing something or loss. And then you kind of just revel in the, gosh, that was so great, right?
Well,
It
I
was
think
so
you have
great.
to reconcile that you did your job. It's what you were supposed to do, but it is the shortest time in their life, their childhood. It's the
Yeah.
shortest time in their life. And when you look back, if you have productive young adult children, you've done your job. And that's where you have to revel in that. If you've done your job and now you have these adult, if they never leave home, I don't know. That's a mixed bag. And that that's where someone's at. I am not going to say one way or another if that's good or bad, but for me, being a young mom and then, now an older mom and now into grandchildren, I don't mind being an empty nester. I'm shameless about saying that. I'm happy that I can have time alone because I've never not had time alone. I've,
Yeah, I've got some friends they were on the show a couple of weeks ago. They are empty nesters for the first time. And they said, wow, like we're going to have so much time. It's like there's just,
yeah.
Not the games and the practices and the just running constantly. And
Yeah. My son said the other day that our refrigerator was going to look very boring when he left. No, we thought that was nice. Like, you guys won't have any food. It's going to be so boring in here. But he wants, meat and cheese. He wants a lot of food all the time. He's 20.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't particularly eat that way. And so I buy it because he's here. But when he's not, and you probably have some avocados and some tomatoes, not a whole bunch of food, but I'm okay with that. I mean, it's just
all right. I have a couple more questions here. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right. What's your favorite word? Favorite word?
Do you know what's funny? And this is going to sound so cheeky to say this, but wow. And it's something I find, wow. Wow is kind of a word that I used to say, and I caught myself saying a lot because I say wow a lot. Wow, wow. And I thought, well, you say wow a lot, but it's kind of is my wow.
I think that's great because that's that curiosity. It means your eyes are wide open, your ears are wide open, you're leaning in, right? Wow. All right. What's your least favorite word? And lean forward just a wee bit, hun, so the light of your camera starts to pick you up again. There we go.
I don't know that I can tell you honestly that I have a least favorite word. I'd have to
probably quit.
No. The answer might maybe no. I don't like the word no. I mean, who does that? Who likes the word no? Maybe no. I think the word no. I don't know anybody who likes the word no unless it's.
Although sometimes learning to say no, though, is a really.
I was about to follow up with that.
Right?
Unless it's you saying no, I'm going to not do this, and I think I think most people can probably say they're not very good at that, saying no to things that they would.
It's hard. Especially when you're curious and you want to please and you want to help and you want to support. It is hard, particularly I think
when friends ask you to do something.
Women,
hey, can you do
really
this?
hard for women to say no. Okay, I'm going to ask, and then we've got Aubrey on here. She could maybe comment in the chat, but I'm going to ask you, if we were to ask your kids, your family, your friends, your clients, Marilyn Gilman is fill in the blank. What would you want them to say? Marilyn Gilman is
trustworthy, consistent, wow, an ass kicker. I don't know. Those are probably pretty safe. Diligent and good at my job, and consistent for showing up. For a relationship, and
tenacious. Your daughter says first word that popped into her head was tenacious.
Oh, that's good. That's perfect. Thank you. Yeah. So I think that's by definition, all the things I'm saying are probably tenacious. Yeah. I am as I said earlier, dog with a bone. I tend to Sometimes I have to calm myself down where I try not to create fires where there are, it's a tenacity to keep going on something and create a fire. And Aubrey and I talk about that sometimes because she's like me, where standing up for your client or standing up this, and I can create a fire that wouldn't otherwise be there. And so on their behalf, and sometimes being quiet and letting things unfold in front of you, and let's say in a business situation, is maybe a better option. And then it's like speeding. You lose control of your car if you're speeding. Instead of doing the speed limit, you can control your car. It's like that sort of analogy. I can control things better if I go slow and steady instead of.
Right. Well, your daughter's here and you probably give her advice like this all the time, but I'm going to ask you to we'll wrap up. First and foremost, before I ask this one final question, everyone, this will be available. Usually takes a bit to render and get it up, but it is available to be archived on Facebook because we streamed it live today there on the Living Well Today page. And then it'll also be on AngelaMoonin.com and on the YouTube. And your real estate website, Marilyn, I put on the previous slides there that I showed, but it's the Gilman Group FL.com.
That's right. Yeah.
So if any of you are looking for wanting to consider a place on the beautiful first coast of Florida, Marilyn's your gal. She's your go-to gal. So, all right, final question. You are where you're at in your life at this point, certainly at a wonderful level of achievement and reward and recognition, and much more to come, surely. But if you're looking back at your younger self, or in the case of, your daughter, Aubrey, you're looking back, you're telling the 18-year-old Marilyn something now that you didn't know then, what would you tell her?
Go slow. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, I had two wonderful daughters young, and I have no regrets because I wouldn't do it any other way now. But I would have, looked after myself better, maybe leaned on my mother more, for some direction, because I ended up in a situation. My mom probably could not have stopped me from doing it because, when you're 18, you think you have the book on life, and I certainly did. But I had no business having two kids by the time I was 20 years old. I was very young, and just go slow, lean into, people who care about you. And trust those around you for more support.
I think that all of us, again, for women, and I think it probably is rooted a lot in who our dads were, and in the case of you and me too, is that you learn this self-reliance and this resilience at a very, very, very young age. And so sometimes, and that's really good, but every aspect of our lives, and we've talked about this before, are two sides of a coin. And the other side of that coin, recognizing both sides of the coin, is really the answer to anything. But the other side of that coin is that trusting that it's okay to be vulnerable, let your guard down, and actually let someone else help you. And I think that's, one of the things that I would impart to my younger self, was that you don't have to do it all on your own. You really can, turn to others, and it's okay to ask for that support and to receive. I do have a video on this, receive. But receiving is so important. And
you've given me some of that. You've given me some of that. You can send me meditational things that are really learning to receive. And you're a good mentor this way is hard. I had divorced parents, and so didn't have a good solid base. And I didn't know what I didn't know, but I think learning how to receive and open up and be vulnerable, and I just did it in a different way, and now I'm learning how to be a little softer, kinder to myself. I've done plenty of things I've messed up in my life that I wish I could have a do-over for. But it is what it is. It happened to me. It's part of my life story. And all I can do is do better, if better is what's I consider to be moving forward. Yeah. And that's all I can do. I'm human. And I don't know many people who don't look at their parenthood or maybe their career and said I could have. I think my family and my and parents and grandparents is probably the most paramount thing, because hear elderly people say they never were worried about a deal they didn't do, or they're worried about the people around them who care
Yeah,
about them.
you hear that a lot. You hear that pattern of, it's not about, I wish I had worked more, or I
Never.
wish I had done this more. It's
Yeah.
about those moments that I said, the apple picking and the pressing the leaves and the spending more time and investing more time paying attention to the things and the people that are in your immediate care, immediate
I
circle.
feel lucky to know it now. Of course, and I wish it's a little bit hindsight because now I'm in my mid 50s, but it's not too late.
No. Oh my
I know
goodness,
all years.
no. No, and with longevity and life extension and everything that will transpire over the next 10, 20, 30 years, when you look back what's happened medically and spiritually and consciously, awareness, intellectually, emotionally, all of it. I know we're in tough times right now, but there's always chaos before clarity. In the body too, often. There can be
Yeah.
some chaos before some clarity. So I want to thank you I know you're incredibly busy, and I want to thank you for taking time out. I thank you, Aubrey, for joining us. It was really kind. And your mama is a pretty great gal. I want to share with everybody too. I'm going to post, you will find also on my YouTube channel, a really wonderful video that Marilyn and I did in
Oh
her
my goodness.
kitchen. We did in her kitchen. And she's a phenomenal cook. She doesn't get to cook as often as she used to, but she's a phenomenal cook. And she made these amazing waffles for me that were actually super healthy. And she's got the recipe on there, and we have fun in her kitchen. So I'm going to post that on the YouTube channel as well. And I hope you take time to check it out. So any final thoughts and words, Marilyn?
Well, just thank you for this opportunity. It's so fun. I love seeing your face, and you're a good healing spot for me, a peaceful spot for me. So thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity and kind of tell my story. It's
a beautiful story continuing to unfold.
yeah, always
All
a
right.
pleasure.
All right. All the best to everyone here, to you,
Thank
Marilyn,
you.
Aubrey, Judith, Tom, everyone who was on with us today. All the best to you for living well today. God bless.